Hello, all you thoughtfully made people out there. It's Courtney Morrison with Made Architecture and Design, back with another weekend review. So last weekend, I spent Saturday getting caught up on some work, and then Sunday had a family day. Went to church, and we did some yard work out in the yard. Really trying to, teach my daughter that hard work is required to maintain the house and the yard and things like that. She's sick. She doesn't really understand. She doesn't want to do it, but it's just part of living here, part of owning a house. And then on Monday, I continued on with the project I was working on Saturday, which is it's a modern house that I designed down south of the city. The owner's great, but the initial house, we got pricing on it, and it was just more than he wanted to spend. And so trying to work with him and figure out what parts of that original house did he really like, should we keep, and which parts did he feel like he could do away with. And so the house was, the original house design was about 10,000 square feet. It's 5 bedrooms, 5.5 baths, or maybe 2 half baths and 5 baths, and a lot of outdoor space, pool deck, all of that. It was a great house, but it's kind of perched on a hill overlooking a lake. But it was quite a bit more than he felt like he was comfortable spending. And so trying to, again, figure out what part of that really works and works well and we should keep, what part of that can he do without, and those sorts of things, and what parts of it were really driving the cost, and can we sort of dial back, or things like that, but still deliver ultimately a really cool house for him and his family. So that's what we were working through, and that was Monday, and then finally got that sent out on Tuesday. And so really excited about where we've landed and where we're headed. I think we're going to get something that's, still, like I said, really cool and architecturally interesting, that will serve him and his family really well as, they grow and expand, and, kids leave the house, grandkids, visit the house, things like that. So there's a lot to think through in that one. And I've really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed working with that client, and was happy to get something out to him on Tuesday. And then I finished up a proposal for a contractor who I've done work with on a different project. They invited me. The contractor is going to build a headquarters space for themselves, and so they invited me to propose. And so I got that done. Really excited. I mean, it's always great when you've served someone well enough that they want to come back and ask you to do another project with them, particularly in this case, a contractor. So I'm excited and thrilled to be able, to be considered to put something together for them. So I did that. And then I worked through a roof design situation where we're doing this remodel. We have a decorator and a contractor involved with a homeowner, and the homeowner, they want to get an outdoor porch that, is adjacent to, it's kind of shoehorned into the existing house, and really working through how to fit the roof in there that'll get water off effectively without causing any further issues, not look architecturally strange. That's kind of one of my pet peeves when doing remodel work. If you're going to deal with the roof, I want it all to really work well together and feel cohesive. And so worked through that and feel like we got a good option dialed in. So that's great. I'll meet with that client next week to go over those options. So I'll give you an update in the next video on how that went. And then on Wednesday, I went and met a family in Buckhead who has an existing house, and they're looking to do a garage and an apartment and some other remodel work as that structure touches the house. Thankfully, the owner had a survey ready to go. That's usually my first step with any project, whether it's new, remodel, addition, anything like that. If you're adding space, if you're expanding the footprint of your house, got to have a survey. So thankfully they had a survey, so we were able to really talk about the nuts and bolts of the project and how it would impact, or what would be impacted, and what the parameters were for that. So I was really great. It was a great family, great meeting. I really enjoyed it. And so what we agreed to do was we met, and then I would do kind of a zoning research study. They're in the city of Atlanta, and go back with them with what I thought their options were. And then I left there on Wednesday. I went and had lunch with a lighting designer, and I've met 2 lighting designers somewhat recently, and I've worked with one earlier in my career. And that is really something that I enjoy learning about. Those guys have, they can bring architecture to life, and I really appreciate that. And they do it differently and things like that, but they really understand, a good lighting designer really understands the individual specific products, what they're trying to do, how different lights affect space and your perception of space, feel warm, cold, cozy, expansive, different things like that. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed connecting with her. And then on Thursday, I finished up the zoning study for the family that I met with in Atlanta. And ultimately what that came down to was, it really pays to understand what the zoning impacts are of the thing that you're doing. So in this case, they had a side yard setback that they were up against. They have topography challenges. Down at the bottom of the side is a creek, so they can't really go that way. And, based on the way the site and house lays out, where they want the garage to be. So I was able to dig into the zoning stuff for them and figure out what they would be able to do if the garage is attached or not attached, if it makes a difference, what the variance process is if they wanted to encroach on the side yard setback. And I talked to the homeowner and wrote her up a summary so that they could make a decision moving forward and figure out what the best way forward for them is. And so if you have a complicated site, or, maybe if you don't think you have a complicated site, maybe it's more complicated than you think, having an architect, having us do a quick zoning study for you so that you can figure out what the parameters are and where you maybe can achieve your goals or need to seek a variance, things like that, really will pay dividends in the end result of what you can do before you assume, oh yeah, we want to put a garage here. Well, maybe not, maybe you can't, or you can if you can check, XYZ boxes. So that's what I did for them, and that was great. I really loved doing that. They were a great family to meet, so I enjoyed that. And then we had meeting with a filmography meeting. We have a friend who lives nearby who's a professional filmographer. That's what he went to school for. He shot commercials and feature-length films and things like that. And so we had a conversation with him. One of my ambitions with the company is to have a bigger and better media presence. And so we were talking to him, not as a job interview, but just for him to get some feedback on our media and what we could do to improve it and where we wanted to go and how we could, make some steps to get there. So that was awesome. He is clearly an expert in his field, and we really enjoyed hearing what he had to say and getting some feedback on what we do and how we operate and what we can do to improve it. I don't know if you can notice in this current setup, we've got already a different lighting setup going on here. The setting on the camera is different. So there are already things that we're starting to implement. I think he's going to continue to help us along. And so I look forward to doing that and hopefully getting him involved in some project work as well. And so we'll see where that goes. Like I said, it was awesome. I love talking to people, kind of like the lighting person, my friend who is an expert in filming. And I love talking to people about their particular area of expertise. So that was great. Friday was a long day. I, left the studio early and went to a client's house to measure their house. This is an existing client who's been on the books for a while. They originally were looking to add a garage to their existing property. And then we sort of worked through the concept phase of that. And they thought, we're not really sure if this is actually what we want or need. So I went and met with them, talked through that, and ultimately how they use the house. They have 2 kids, a couple of dogs, 2 working professionals. And so I just talked through, how do you use the house? What space do you think you want? What space would you like to have? What space do you have that you don't use? What I ultimately told them was, just because you have square footage, not every square foot is created equal. Sometimes that's, square footage, if it's not useful to you and your family and how you operate, then let's figure out the best and highest use for it. If we need to remodel square footage that you have and things like that. So that's what we talked through. They ended up pivoting. So I went to measure their existing house, and we will work through some changes, additions, things like that. Thankfully, they already had a survey, like I mentioned earlier. So we kind of know what we can do in terms of expanding the footprint of the house. So that was Friday morning. Left there, went straight to Kennesaw State University, and sat on a jury for architecture students, which I love doing. I've talked about before, just giving them feedback. These guys are working on a big mixed use project, and trying to, I think the site's 50 acres, and they're trying to figure out how to plan it. What does the community need? And, really digesting that scale. I've done a good bit of mixed use work. And so I felt like I was able to really give some contributions and ask them some questions about their thoughts on that project typology. So that was a lot of fun. That took the afternoon, which is why I'm here, it's Sunday now, recording this a little bit later than I ordinarily would. And so that is all we have for now. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts on who we are, what we do, how we do it, please leave them below. I would love to interact with you guys on a future Week in Review video. So yeah, that's all we've got for now. In the meantime, y'all be particular, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.